Hey. It's Filter Free Friday, y'all. Listen, I am so glad y'all here. I told a story in the book, The Holy Educated MFer, about the fact that I am constantly surrounded by introverts. In fact, I grew up in a house where my mama was an introvert. My daddy was seemed introverted to me. All my siblings also seem incredibly introverted and reflective and less expressive and talkative. And me, I was the different one. And I thought even the odd one, except for in my extended Price family, there were lots of over the top personalities, people who love to speak in front of large groups of people, and folks who uh, got their thoughts out by talking through them. And and so I knew that there wasn't something uniquely wrong with me. However, one of the first gifts I'd gotten, and I know many of you've heard me tell this story before, was a plaque that said, "Dear Lord, please help me this day to keep my big mouth shut." And there was another one that said, "Lord, put your arm around my shoulder and hand over my mouth." I was a talker. I still am a talker in many ways. In fact, put me in front of a few thousand of my closest friends, and my spirit just comes alive. I get a lot of energy from the crowd. But over time, you start to learn that you think that there's something wrong with that. And while there are some things wrong with talking before you think, while there are some things wrong with not reflecting, I maintain um, that everybody got something wrong with them, and that everyone has amazing things that work for them. You know, this week I was with a client, and every time I'm with them, they're like, "Here's the problem we trying to solve. Here's the trust issue that we need to make better. Here's the communication problem that we need to make better. We need to be less racist. We need to be more trusting. We need to be better able to handle change. We need to. And it occurred to me, I said, think about your most trusting relationships, the best ones you got. How often does the word trust come up? How often do y'all talk about trust? And I just let folks sit with that for a moment, only for them to realize that in your most trusting relationships, you don't bring up trust. You don't say trust. You just act in trusting ways. You also tend to not, in your closest relationships, focus on what's wrong all the time. The ones where you are having the most fun are the ones where people know there's something wrong with you, and they allow you to be who God uniquely designed you to be. Because here's what I know for sure: my ability to be able to pivot at the last minute and not be too frazzled. People who are also like that are not going to be your most planful, scheduled, early starting personalities. Those two things don't come together. People who are very practical in their implementation of things, who want to know what has worked in the past and how does it work today, are not the kinds of people who can envision what should be new um, in the future, who also tend to be innovative. Those two things don't come together. People who value honesty and candor and getting in front of real issues and tackling them are not the same people who bring groups together in a harmonious way and have the most tact and look for the good. Those that just don't come together. And so why do I bring that up? Sugar, you better love on yourself and let people worry about their work that they got to do. And I am surprised that I got here this week, but I'm gonna put my trainer out on blast, and the universe must have told her I was gonna do this because she mentioned it in boot camp this morning. But I'm not gonna talk about her in the way that she thinks. So her body is perfect, if you ask me. every single muscle she has. You can see it. Her body fat percentage is low, and you can tell she works on that thing. Well, I think you can tell that I've been working out for years. Um, and you probably also can tell that I stand to do a little bit more cardio. You could probably tell that I need to stop eating. Don't, in fact, I got peanut M&Ms right here. That I need to stop eating stuff like that. Both things are true. And I was excited this week because you could start to see that my tricep is coming in there, and you can see my shoulder, and I was really pleased with that. And when I told her, she goes, "Man, I can make your body look perfect if you eat right." Y'all be careful. Y'all be careful, because what I recognized in myself in that moment was that if I had not been doing so much therapy work, that I would spend the rest of the day, if not week, if not month, criticizing my body. So after that workout, I came upstairs and I did a measurement. I measured my arms, my neck, my chest, my waist, my bum, my thighs. I measured everything. My back around my chest is bigger. But when you add all of those inches up, even the ones where my back around my chest is bigger, but everything else is smaller, I lost 5 inches since I started working out with her almost 3 years ago during COVID. And why do I tell you that? Because you need some kind of baseline assessment for your life, not for your body, for your life. You need to sit down and think about, who did God uniquely design you to be? How did God, what contribution do you think God gave you to deliver in the world? Because if not, people will chip away at what is wrong with you and cause you to not be able to show up and do the work that you are intended to do. There's a quote by Toni Morrison, and it basically says something like, in fact, let me see. Let me read it to you. The very serious function of racism is distraction. It keeps you from doing your work. It keeps you explaining over and over again your reason for being. Somebody says you have no language, and you spend 20 years proving that you do. Somebody says your head isn't shaped properly, so you have scientists working on the fact that it is. Somebody says you have no art, so you dredge up art. Somebody says you have no kingdom, so you dredge that up too. None of this is necessary, because there will always be one more thing. And when I consider what happens to me internally, what ends up happening in environments where I move, and then what ends up happening from a systemic and institutional level, is we are so good at studying what's wrong. If we will redirect that energy and study what's right, what could happen? What could happen? I asked somebody, I said, when something happens the way it's supposed to, what do we do? And people were just kind of looking around like, that's what you're supposed to do. And I said, well, when something goes wrong, what do we do? When something goes wrong, here's what I got from the group. We pull everybody in the room and we do an after action review, and we want to know who was responsible, where did things break down, and we study that thing. And then we create standard operating procedures, SOPs, for how we can keep that thing from again. And my question is this: what would happen if, when something goes right, when you notice that you fix one of the world's most persistent problems, if we pulled everybody in the room and said, what happened? Who was responsible for this? What did they do? Let's create an SOP to make sure that this keeps happening. What would the world be like if we studied success in the same way that we study failure? And here's listen, I believe with everything in me, we got to have empathy for ourselves before we can demonstrate empathy for anybody else. And what do I mean? Not kindness, not gentleness, not care, not niceness. It is understanding who you are, understanding how you think, what you feel, why you believe the things you believe. And then know that there are going to be people who for whom that just is not going to work. Because you can do all this bending and twisting and turning and it ain't going to help no way. And the distractions, the people who will ask you, well, what's the ROI of that? For those people, I ask them, I love my mama, y'all. Y'all know that. And I love her more now that she's gone, I think. If somebody asked me what was the ROI of my mother, I don't know that I could figure that out. But just because I can't does not mean she's not valuable. In fact, some of the most valuable things you can't quite figure out what the ROI is of it. And so therefore, sometimes, and this is coming from an engineer, sometimes when people are asking you for the numbers, it is a distraction. It is a delay tactic. It is let's figure out, let's do another assessment. Let's talk again about what's wrong. And here's what I know about the world's most persistent problems. You know good and darn well how you feel about gay people, because you would never want to be gay because you know just how we treat them. You know with everything in you what our race problem is in this country, because you wouldn't want to ever be one of the people who are discriminated against based on their race. You know how people who are female are treated in this country. You know how women treated. And so therefore you understand and know you wouldn't want to be the one holding a baby and then having to go back to work in 6 weeks. You know how poor people are treated in this country. And so therefore you spend your life working yourself to death so you ain't never got to be that. You know. And so for me, what I am inviting us to do because this week sparked the end of the empathy revolution, the empathy 14, and it is a call for each of us to try to step deeply into what does it look like to truly understand other people. But this thing we do where we won't honor who we uniquely are as people, where we won't just recognize what's going on in the space around us, when we won't look at these systems and see that they're not working and not changing, it's all connected. It is all connected. And so here's my call to you today. Recognize the things, the good things about you, and know that there are going to be people for whom that thing does not work. And do your work anyway. Because these systems ain't going to change on their own. This sitting out and sitting to the wayside and saying, well, I don't have this and I don't have that, and I need to read another book, and I need to go to another class, and I need to eat better. Listen, I'm not denying in any way, shape, or form that I need to listen more. But what I know for sure is that you look at any personality test I have ever taken, and it tells you that I like to talk. But there's one other thing about personality instruments that I am incredibly proud of. When you do my DISC assessment, my natural chart looked just like the adaptive chart. You know what that means? I'm showing up in the world exactly like God uniquely designed me to be. And that pressure I feel when somebody don't like it, because I want people to like me. So, honey, courage is feeling the fear, knowing people ain't gonna like you, and doing it anyway. And I need more of you who have the heart and compassion for people to embrace this idea. Because hatefulness, child, hatefulness out here like, look, I might be stupid, I might be lazy, I might be everything, and I'm going to have all the confidence in the world to push right on through. It's like the most beautiful flowers need all this special soil and water, and don't put too much sun, and these dang weeds out here growing in the middle of rock gardens. You are imperfect, and that is enough. Listen, y'all, it's Filter Free Friday. We got work to do.